Hi, I'm Dr. Lucine Wisniewski. I am the clinical director at the Center for Evidence-Based Treatment, Ohio. I am a clinical psychologist, and I've been working with eating disorders for over the past 25 years. And parents in particular, often ask me, what causes an eating disorder and what can we as parents do to prevent it from occurring? And I think the first really important thing that I think parents need to know is that parents don't cause their kids to have an eating disorder. There's really no research suggesting that it's the parent's fault, as I think used to be believed. Sort of in previous times, as a culture, we blamed parents for everything, and eating disorders was one of those. But now we understand that the development of an eating disorder comes from a combination of biology, psychology, and culture. And we know, in terms of a parent's fault, I would say, your parents, as parents give children their genetics, they give them susceptibilities. And those susceptibilities might be to perfectionism, to rigidity, to emotional lability, to being someone who holds weight differently than others. And those are things that can make someone vulnerable to an eating disorder. But again, just having any one of those things doesn't usually cause an individual to develop a frank eating disorder itself. Then we have the social issues, right? We all live in this culture where we are expected, what is deemed to be beautiful is very specific and really unattainable for most individuals. But truth be told, we all live in this culture and we all don't develop eating disorders. And so then there are psychological factors. So the psychological factors that are associated with eating disorders are issues like low self-esteem, anxiety, depression, sometimes substance use. But again, just having one of those things does not make someone develop an eating disorder. Generally, it's a combination of many things. The biological vulnerability, the cultural pressure, and the psychological issues that go with it. And those things together are, in combination, result in an eating disorder. So then parents will say, okay, so how do I prevent my child from developing one? And there's no foolproof way to do that. But if you think about the three factors that I just described, there may be interventions or things that parents can think of or can use as skills to be able to bolster and protect their child from the development of an eating disorder. So let's talk about biology. We know perfectionism and lability, so lability meaning mood going up and down or reactivity going up and down, are both things that are make an individual vulnerable. So if you have a kid that's more perfectionistic, sort of helping them to learn to be more flexible. If you have a kid who's more labile, helping them to learn to manage their emotions may help them, which are just really great things in general, but may also help protect them from the development of an eating disorder. Culturally, we know that some kids are particularly susceptible to images in beauty magazines and fashion magazines. So not having those things around your house, not having them easily accessible, being able to talk to your children about, how many of the images we see and we're presented with in magazines are not actually attainable and are, for many of them, not actually even real because of airbrushing. And helping kids to be more savvy consumers of media may be another way that you can help protect your child. And then finally, psychological pieces. So if you have a child with low self-esteem or with anxiety or depression, and you think that that's influencing their relationship with food and eating, perhaps getting some coaching from a professional about how to help your child manage those issues will again help you to prevent the development of a full-on eating disorder. So I think the final thing I would like to say to parents, though, is that when you have a concern, talk to someone who knows. So if you see any indications of an eating disorder or disordered eating, because those are not the same thing, right? You might have disordered eating or what I call funny eating. You might see show up in your child. You're not sure. You have some concerns. You have some questions. That's usually the beginning of the path to having an eating disorder. If you notice those things in your child, get a consultation from an expert right away. There's no harm in you going to talk to someone to be able to float out the symptoms or the problems that you're seeing to see whether or not alarm is warranted. I'll often get calls from parents who don't want to bring their child in because they're worried that the notion of I'm bringing you in to see if you have an eating disorder is too either shaming or too anxiety provoking, or they're not sure it's a problem. Then parents, you go in and talk to somebody first and then decide what the next step should be. But don't wait, because in my experience, these are not things that just go away.